India's former G20 Sherpa and ex-CEO of NITI Aayog joins us exclusively on ET Now on the union budget and highlights, speaking about the highlights of the budget as well. Let's go across to Amitabh Kant for his reaction on the budget. Amitabh, welcome to ET Now. Now, the government has raised capital expenditure to 12.2 lakh crore in FY 26-27, effective capex reaching 17.14 lakh crore rupees. Now, with a dedicated freight corridor connecting Dankuni to Surat, 20 new national waterways starting with NW5 in Odisha and 7 high-speed rail corridors announced. What, as per your understanding, will be catalyzing effect on ground achieving the goal of a $5 trillion dollar economy?
No, infrastructure is the key to long-term growth, and I'm glad that the finance minister has increased the budgetary allocation of capex, capital expenditure, to 12.2 lakh crore, which is roughly about 4.4% of the total GDP. Now, this will have a multiplier impact on Indian economy, and to my mind, drive both long-term growth and jobs. And if India is to become Viksit Bharat, it has to grow at 8 to 9% per annum. And for that, infrastructure is really the key. Our ability to do better infrastructure projects and our ability to do quality projects and our ability to do world-class projects is now the key. We need to think big, we need to think large, and we need to do world-class execution. Nothing should be shoddy, nothing should be third class. Everything should be to global standards.
Absolutely, Mr. Kant. Let me also ask you from an exports perspective, because the budget increases duty-free inputs for seafood processing from 1% to 3% of FOB value. It extends leather product export timelines to 1 year, and it removes the 10 lakh courier export value cap entirely, and it allocates 10,000 crores for RODTEP and 5,000 crores for ROSCTLD schemes. As per India's export ambition, how do you see these targeted sector outlays, and how do they really fit into India's broader trade strategy, the broader FTA strategy, and of course to cushion India's exports from global turbulence?
These are sectors which have been impacted by Trumpian tariffs: textiles, food processing, marine products, leather and footwear. And to my mind, the importance of these sectors lies in the fact that they must become globally competitive. We must be able to produce to world-class standards, we must be able to export. And the budget announcement helped towards making India a global manufacturing base on these products, and that these sectors should not continue to remain impacted because of the 50% tariff by US.
Mr. Kant, while STT increase on futures and options signals caution on capital market speculation, beyond equity market volatility concerns, what other policy levers is the government deploying to expand FDI in semiconductor, green energy and financial services, and how to react to the capital market development?
So, markets work on predictability and consistency of policy, which is important. This budget talks about reform of FEMA. This budget talks about trust-based reforms in customs laws. This budget talks about rationalization of duties. This budget talks about financial sector reforms through a high-level committee. This budget talks about new income tax implementation from 1st of April. All this put together in totality makes it a very predictable and consistent budget, which focuses on ease of doing business. And I think the final reading of the budget will enable the stock market people to realize, and I'm quite sure the stock market will bounce back in the next 2-3 days.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Kant, this is also shielding investors, particularly retail investors, those who are investing in F&O. But let's also talk about another aspect of one of the budget announcements, which is defense allocation, which has reached 5.95 lakh crores, which is essentially a 4.7% hike from the previous FY26 allocation. Now, given the evolving geostrategic considerations, especially after Operation Sindoor, can you shed some light on the government's vision for defense sector in both the medium term and long term with the kind of allocation that's been made today?
No, it's an important point, and I think it's very important that this budgetary outlay for the defense sector has been increased by 22%. The challenge on the defense side is that budgetary outlays are normally not utilized. This is the first time that the budgetary outlay has been completely utilized, and therefore, in the complex geopolitical scenario that we are living in, the complex neighborhood that we are living in, there was a necessity for defense allocation to go up. But when you increase the defense outlay by 22%, you are basically giving a rise to innovation, to R&D, to manufacturing, which will have a huge multiplier impact on Indian economy. All innovation, etc., are driven by the defense sector. So in the long run, my view is that this will be very beneficial to Indian economy.
Mr. Kant, the budget allocates 40,000 crore rupees for electronics components manufacturing, rupees 1,000 crore for India Semiconductor Mission 2.0, rupees 20,000 crore for carbon capture technology, and 1,000 crore for India AI Mission, and 3,200 crore for Atal Tinkering Labs, a flagship of this government. How do you see India's place in the global R&D spending, especially for deep tech, given these kinds of budget?
So all these areas are critical. India needs to technologically leapfrog. India needs to pole vault. And without these sectors growing, it will not be possible for India to grow at high rates. And therefore, it's very important that the government has laid focus not only on these sectors, but on lithium, iron, on nuclear power, on CCUS, carbon capture, etc. All these are areas of growth of the future. India will continue to grow, progress, and sustain its growth over a long period only with cutting-edge technology. This would lead to innovation, this would lead to R&D, this would lead to growth over a long period of time.
Absolutely, Mr. Kant, and it remains to be seen when you talk about the semiconductor aspect, the semiconductor mission, when it gets unveiled and the corpus of the announcement of the semiconductor mission that's going to be. But how do you really see the announcements in today's budget, and particularly with respect to the impact that they're going to have on India's employment imperatives and export surge prospects?
No, I'm glad that there's a focus on MSME with this growth fund. There's a focus on trade because that will ensure that money comes back to the MSME sector. MSME sector is a very big creator of jobs. 45% of the jobs in MSME sector of India's total jobs come from the MSME sector. So when you lay emphasis on MSME through this growth fund and through the trades, you are ensuring that you are able to create jobs. And along with textiles, marine, along with sectors like footwear and leather, and along with a huge focus on tourism, this budget should be a major driver of job creation.
Mr. Kant, the fiscal deficit has tightened to 4.3% of GDP, and debt to GDP ratio is declining to 55.6%. Notably, the budget glides away from direct entitlement expansion and populist freebies. Do you see this fiscal discipline also trickling to states given India's considerations as a developed economy?
No, I don't see that as yet. I think the states need to be far more fiscally responsible. The states are giving away a lot as free loading. which is not a correct, that will have long-term implication for India. We need far greater discipline by the state governments. Around election time, all state governments are giving away a lot of free gifts, which is not the right thing to do. It has long-term implication in terms of infrastructure creation. So we need far greater discipline at the state level.
That's right, Mr. Kant. So, of course, this has been a fiscally prudent budget. There's been a fair balance, which has essentially been maintained. But just one final question before we let you go. You've spoken about the hits in the budget, but according to you, what were the misses in the budget? Some things that you were expecting, but it did not feature in the finance minister's speech today.
Budget is very comprehensive. It's a very holistic budget. It looks at all areas, particularly manufacturing and industries. I would have liked a fund of funds for deep tech, which would have given a greater impetus to deep tech. But I feel that has been made up by this big tax exemption, which has been given to data centers for 22 years that can drive artificial intelligence, that can drive computing power, that can drive cloud infrastructure to India in a very big way. So this is a very integrated, comprehensive budget.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kant, for giving away your inputs on today's union budget. Now, moving on.